Airports Company South Africa says the supply of jet fuel is under severe strain, but says plans are in place to prevent any further disruptions. 15 local and international flights had to be cancelled because of this fuel shortage, and it's due to floods in KZN, which led to railway infrastructure, being damaged, and of course hindering the transportation of fuel from Durban to Johannesburg. So to unpack this further, we're joined now by Aviation Expert Phuthego Mojapele, who joins us via our video link this morning. Great to have you with us on the program, sir. I mean, how concerned are you about these 15 local and international flights being cancelled because of the shortage?
Good morning, Michelle and your viewers. It is very much concerning. This problem has started 3 weeks ago, and the government really downplayed this problem as it was about to loom to where it is. And I mean, when you have international airlines starting to cancel all their scheduled services to Johannesburg, it really raised a lot of concern, because that on its own doesn't necessarily impact on the airlines, but it impacts on passengers, because those passengers, they would pay extra because the services will be very much limited to their destinations of choice. So it could have been averted. I think they could have planned properly so that it does not have to affect the passengers the way it would. It's going to inconvenience quite a lot of passengers, as well as the cargo that comes into the country. So we are going to see quite a substantial amount of increase on the ticket prices, because the services are very limited, and those that are able to operate would hike the prices. So I think we could have done much better in this case to avoid this situation to be where it is today.
I mean, AXA is describing it as a dire shortage of jet fuel, but it's also saying that it has plans in place to ensure that this doesn't, as you say, continue to inconvenience commuters. What might these plans be that they have in the pipeline?
At the moment, some of the airlines like Swiss Air, what they do is they are now taking off out of Johannesburg with the limited fuel that they have, heading to Durban and refuel in Durban and take off from Durban heading to Zurich. That is what the Swiss Air has done so far, and I've seen also Qatar has done that as well, and I'm hoping that most airlines that would wish to continue their services in Johannesburg are going to continue to do that. But you know, it's something that we should start planning better. I mean, relying on the rail to have the fuel in Johannesburg. I'm sure the infrastructure needs to be improved. They have realized that it is quite important that we just don't have to rely on one source of transportation to bring the fuel down up here in Johannesburg. And surely, I'm sure they can waive some of the landing rights so that these airlines can go to Durban and get them refuel. That is, if they agree to that kind of arrangement that the airport company would bring into place, so that at least we don't have mass inconvenience in terms of the flight cancellations. Delta has really been affected a lot. United has also cancelled. I mean, these are the only U.S. airlines that we have out of South Africa, other than going to do a connect in the Middle East. And I'm sure that we could do better than that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, what you've just described now, refueling in Durban, so leaving from OR Tambo International Airport, depending on where you're flying to in the world, make a stop in Durban and do that process of refueling in Durban. It sounds plausible, I suppose, but what is, I'm sure it doesn't come for free. What's the cost of doing that to the airline? We already know that consumers are paying the price with an increase in ticket prices.
Yeah, well, it is going to be quite expensive to do that. That on its own, it is expensive. But in the circumstances where you don't have a choice and you really want to maintain the slot, you want to maintain the bookings, the airlines get penalized. When I booked a ticket to go somewhere and I'm not able to, the airline is not able to fulfill their mandate based on the planning, because this is a planning, it's not an accident, it's not a weather situation, it's purely a planning, and you are not able to adhere to what the ticket conditions are, they get severe penalized on that. So when you look at the 45 minutes flight out of Johannesburg to Durban, it's not that much. I'm sure it's small cost, but they would be able to continue rendering the service. But that is also depending on where you are going in the world. If you're going to the US, it's going to be quite far. But it looks like it could be something that they can work on depending on where they are going. But at the moment, we have no choice, but that's the only alternative that we have at the moment.
And it looks to be in place for some time to come as well. I mean, AXA being informed by Transnet Freight Rail that it expects its full rail capacity between Durban and the airport to be fully restored. It's 50% restored by the 9th of June, but fully restored by the end of October.
Correct. We are going to have a serious problem. That pipeline that was supposed to have been running in between, it would have came as something that would have helped us a lot. And Transnet, we know Transnet has always had some issues as well. I mean, this infrastructure should have been in place because Johannesburg is a hub, economic hub of South Africa, and we cannot have a situation where we don't have a plan to bring fuel into Johannesburg area, and we're only relying on one source of transport, which is really clearly shows that the planning was not really in place, and that we're seeing many inconvenience because there was absolutely no planning. And if you're talking about October, I mean, where would we be at that time? So there has to be immediate government intervention to resolve issues. Not that this is the only priority that government has to deal with, but let's look at the economy. Let's look at what the aviation industry is bringing into the country, and surely we would be able to bring our heads together and come up with a solution. I just don't think that the plan that Transnet has given to AXA is going to work. It's not going to work. It's not only that it could be just them. The government has to come in place and work on it as quick as possible so that we don't have these disruptions going forward.
Certainly. Phuthego Mojapele, let me thank you for your time this morning. Certainly worrying indeed, especially because of the toll on airlines and on the pockets of consumers. Pilot and aviation expert joining us after those 15 local and international flights had to be cancelled from OR Tambo International Airport because of a shortage of jet fuel.